Evening, everyone. It is 4:30, and I would like to call to order the February 24 Board of Directors meeting for the Costa Mesa Sanitary District, and invite all of you to stand and salute the flag with me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Assistant President Robert Uten.
I'm the vice chair.
Oh, Vice President.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm the
Vice Secretary.
I used to be the vice secretary. Okay. Bow your heads, please, and follow along with me. And it'll be the serenity prayer, probably ad infinitum. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom for us to know the difference. Amen.
Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Yes, Director Nicole Wiltshire. Here. Vice Secretary Arlene Schaefer. Here. Secretary Arthur Perry.
Here.
Vice President Robert Uten.
Here.
President Mike Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you.
Let me ask, I have a clarifying statement. I was looking at the policies. That name got changed. It's not vice secretary anymore. It's by policy assistant secretary. So you owe Arlene an apology.
Well, I think you meant that it was Assistant President.
No.
Secretary.
Assistant secretary. I mean, just look it up.
Anything else, sir?
No.
Okay, any late communications?
No, Mr. President.
And we have no ceremonial matters
No.
this evening. So at this point, we are still going to adjourn to closed session. Is that right?
Yes.
We are going to adjourn to closed session regarding the annual personal evaluation of the general manager pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. And as soon as we're done, we'll be back with you. Back in open session and pursuant to the personnel evaluation Government Code Section 54957, there is no reportable action. There's no reportable action to report. Okay. Consent calendar, or that anyone want anything pulled for discussion from the consent calendar, staff or? Okay, seeing no one, I'll look for a motion.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion and a second discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. All right, right to the general manager's report. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is just really an update on the Solid Waste Ad Hoc Committee meeting that met on February 3rd of this month to talk about monitoring and enforcement, contamination monitoring and enforcement of SB 1383 for contamination violations. So the committee had a robust discussion, and the staff was seeking directions. Do you want us to enforce our ordinance on contaminations, or do you want to just focus on outreach? The committee, the other things that are doing as far as enforcing SB 1383, and quite frankly, no one's really doing any enforcement. They all really want to push the outreach efforts. And so that was a direction the committee gave to staff, is the outreach efforts, and in your staff report is a brief description of what staff will be doing to comply with those directions. Staff has also be developing an outreach plan that will outline all outreach and education efforts and tools, as well as a timeline for possible future enforcement. So in case you want to consider that in the near future. So that really completes my report. And President Schaefer, have anything to offer, please?
I don't remember if we talked at any length, if we did at all, about what the state is doing and whether the state's looking at enforcing. What are we getting any pressure from the? You get. So I'm addressing to CR&R's representatives. You guys are getting nothing from the state in terms of guidance either, are you?
Can I ask? We wouldn't actually get notification from the state, it's mainly the cities.
Oh, yeah, that's
Mainly the city reports, we report to the city and the city makes the report, so I don't think they would ever, if they would direct it, it would be to the city and then they would have to work with us.
Does a commercial have separate bins for green waste, food waste, and trash?
They're supposed to, yes.
I mean,
They're supposed to have some
the-
recycling, organics, and for trash.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And are they following those rules, Julie?
Well, there are sometimes cans, at least one by a bin, which I don't think is enough, but
Yeah.
yeah, that remains to be
Just
seen.
curious, because,
Yeah.
we're doing it, but I don't know about the
I-
commercial.
Yeah, it's kind of all right. I've seen a couple, I've seen especially organics cans at some markets and restaurants. And they have just, looks like the littlest, the smallest one. I'm thinking, I know what goes in mine and there's only 2 people in my household. What are these restaurants? I mean, do you guys do source separations with them to look and see? Or is it pretty much just get it gone? Sorry, Mike.
It depends on the commercial property, so commercial does have an option to be able to apply for a waiver if they're not a food waste generator or they don't have any landscaping. For restaurants, we offer them the program and they can select what size bin or cart that they want for a food waste program.
Up to them.
It checks the box of them being compliant.
Are there any restaurants that say we don't have any waste?
A restaurant will know, we never give an exemption or even entertain a waiver for a restaurant. They all have food waste.
That's a good move, I think. Thanks, bud. Okay, anything else, Seth?
No, Mr. President.
Bob, you were at the meeting, anything else?
Well, I think, we've spent a lot of time on talking about what Scott mentioned about enforcement or not. And I was surprised there was data presented, nobody is enforcing, and I don't believe anybody's going to enforce. Irrespective of what the potential is. I think what we need to do is and maybe this is a separate subject that we need to talk about, is we're trying to explore, we're trying to figure out what is contamination. And I think we've, as an agency, done a good job of putting out what should be in a bin. I think what we need to do is figure out what the top contaminants are. And continue to educate the public on what contaminants are not supposed to be in a particular bin. And, probably rises up to just a few. But I think that education effort, I don't know whether it's CRNR or us that needs to do that, but somebody's going to determine that there's a contaminant in a particular bin and they might get written up. I don't know if CRNR has, I would like to see the education component necessary for the public to understand what normally would be a contaminant.
So we have 2 opportunities that we do that. So as part of SB 1383, we have an assigned sustainability coordinator that does what we call route reviews, as it's listed in the regulations, or lid flips, to be
Yeah.
very, And so when Luke is out going through the routes, we have a tag that says oops. And it came out of our staff meeting last week that we talked about not only a oops, but good job. So if we see something that has really clean, they're putting all the right things in each container, staff is going to design a good job tag. But the oops is really just that. It has all the pictures, you check the box of what they put in the wrong container, and then on the back side, it shows them what goes into every single bin. So that's one piece. That's at the curb with the individual resident, they'll get a tag left on their cart. The other thing, which I think is the data we need to take it a step further, is we'll be conducting our very first waste characterizations of the year. One we are conducting as part of the new rollout of the recycle containers, and that's what we're looking for. Those top contaminants, we'll have photos. Mike and I can come back to a follow-up meeting, do a PowerPoint presentation, show what we find. I've done that with Midway City and other cities, that we show your stuff for the residents to see. And then Mike Ballier also does his characterization as well. I believe is it the same month or after? It's coming up in March. And so we'll have two different sets of data, the one we're going to do and then the one that Mike Ballier are doing. Between those two, that's the opportunity where we identify those common things. We commonly find a lot of garden hoses in the recycle carts. Just recently, unfortunately, but I'll share it since I'm here, in the city of Laguna Beach, someone thought they could recycle their e-bike, which that battery caught on fire, our very first load fire in Laguna Beach, and the suppression system on the truck wasn't able to put that fire out, so it was a big deal. Someone cut up their e-bike and put the whole e-bike with the battery, lithium battery attached, and it caught the load on fire. And so that was a recycle load. So those will be the common things that we identify. A lot of plastic toys. People think, oh, it's plastic, it must be recyclable. The plastic toys, kids' toys, are not recyclable. So very good point. And those are the opportunities that we can identify and then do specific campaigns to the residents.
Well, I think, all the studies that CRNR and Mike Valier did in the past should change, because now we have a third cart. Do you do those kinds of studies for all the jurisdictions
do.
that you serve?
We do. And then that's the point. I mean, a lot of them were contractually required that we do these characterizations, but the bigger issue is, well, what do you do with it? Not just to say, oh, here's your percentages. You had X amount of aluminum and X amount of trash and so much cardboard. Well, what about all the stuff that's in there, and how do you change, or vice versa? A lot of times what we're doing is what we call a reverse sort. We're really more focused on what's in the trash cart, in the landfill cart, and how much of that stuff is supposed to be. And what we're finding with many cities, on average, 53 to 55% is trash, and the remaining 47, 45% still should be going into those other two containers for recycling. So it's still a lot.
Well, then the palm fronds are something that we know are in the wrong bin often.
Well, they should be in the trash. So when you say in the wrong bin, you say people are still putting them in the green bin. Yes,
Well, either one, they put them anywhere.
you're right.
We're still struggling with pizza boxes and soiled stuff,
Yes.
And it was interesting. It was at the happiest place on earth today for a conference, not frivolity. And I noticed that they have trash cans for recyclables. Then they have a trash can for trash cans. Near the Italian places in downtown Disney, they have trash cans that have a big slit in them like this. And it says, for pizza boxes only.
There you go.
And I heard the cleanup guy talking to somebody. She asked him, what's with this? He said that the reason they had those boxes is those canisters was because the pizza boxes don't fit in the regular trash can. So they had to put in special trash cans just for pizza boxes. So I don't think we need a fourth rollout of a cart yet.
You're not. But as an industry, we've confused everybody, because at one time it was cardboard, and then we said, no, all that grease is not good. So now you got to put in the trash. And now 1383 comes along, and now it's considered food soiled paper. Now it goes in the organic. So that's changed in the last 10 years, that it's went into all three carts in the last 10 years.
I think once we have these studies and stuff, before we present it to the board, let's maybe, Scott, take a look at having an ad hoc committee meeting to talk about it before we bring it to the board.
Sure.
So Julie, you have three carts, and you're gonna do a sort on each cart?
We do it on the whole load. As the load comes in to CRT, back to our facility,
Yeah,
it's
but I
dumped
mean,
on the
you-
ground, and
yeah.
then it's sorted.
So but you collect them with three different trucks.
Correct.
So is the first sort gonna be one from a particular type of bin cart? Or is it gonna be,
So we do
Sort-
all three trucks. But we try to rotate as we do these audits. Every time we do the audit, we pick a different route in the city. So we're not always grabbing the same neighborhood. So we try to spread it out. But each individual truck will be audited.
Each individual cart.
Well, truck that picks up that cart.
Okay.
Yeah, so a trash truck, a recycle truck, and an organics truck.
But it'll take three quarters to get
Mhm.
that information.
Good. Any other questions? File, so we'll let that one go and move to item 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. Diana Bajarski will be giving this report.
Good evening, Mr. President and Board. At the January 14th study session, the board directed staff to return with more historical data on customer activity related to the closure during the holidays. And over the past few years, staff has informally monitored activity during the holiday period. In 2024, we found that the demand for district services and interactions was minimal, with a significant drop in call volume during that time. Most contractors and customers wrapped up their projects for the year between late November and early December. And according to staff, from December 26th through December 31st, the district received 2 to 3 phone calls per day. All of those calls were CR&R related, and they were transferred to CR&R. During that same period, only one person visited HQ, and that was regarding HHW disposal. Unfortunately, our current phone system does not provide access to past phone records, so we are unable to retrieve a formal record of calls. However, I can tell you that in previous years, when front office staff was asked to informally track phone calls and the walk-in activity, the numbers were significantly lower than the rest of the year. Unfortunately, those records were not retained. As mentioned, the district usually sees a noticeable decline in foot traffic and phone calls from Christmas to New Year's Day. Many of our residents and contractors take time off during that period. And over the years, a notable portion of our workforce here at the district has consistently chosen to take time off during the holiday period to spend time with loved ones. Given the seasonal nature of the time off, the closure of the district offices would accommodate the widespread leave trend and promote employee well-being. Another challenge for the district we have found during the holiday season has been unplanned leave with cold and flu season. When coupled with employees taking pre-scheduled vacation days, it can become difficult to maintain full staffing in the office during that time. Employees who prefer not to take leave during the period will have the option to work subject to supervisor approval. So it's not like it's a mandatory vacation where we're forcing employees to use their leave time. They do have the option to work. And during that time, if the district were to close, all phone calls and online requests related to solid waste would be directed to CR&R to ensure a timely resolution. The wastewater department would continue to follow the standby duty schedule to respond to any emergency situations that may arise, ensuring there are no interruptions to critical operations during the holiday period. Several local agencies, including the cities of Costa Mesa and Newport Beach, are closed between Christmas and New Year's. City of Newport Beach operates on a half-day schedule on December 24th and then remains closed through January 1st. Both cities require employees to use their accrued leave during this period, but also provide the option to work with supervisor approval. Neither city deems these holidays extra holidays for the employees, and that's not what the district is asking to do either. In conclusion, given the reduced activity levels, the historical trends, and the holiday schedule observed by other local agencies, closing the district offices between December 25th and January 1st is a practical decision that supports employee work-life balance while ensuring minimal disruption to public service. Staff is recommending that the Board of Directors approve the closure of the district offices from December 25th through January 1st. and I can answer any questions you might have.
One question I'm still grappling with is, so the offices are closed, all employees technically would be off.
They could be if they wanted to be, yes.
In order to be off, they're gonna have to use vacation, personal time. If they're out of all that, then they don't get paid for the days that were closed, unless they come in.
Unless they could still come to work. So we're not forcing anybody to take those days off. It would be up to them. If they want to use their accrued leave time, they can do that. But and there's no, unless the employee is out of time off and they take the time off, then the district's not paying them, obviously. But regardless, either the district is paying the employee for the regular work hour or vacation. So it's financially, there's no
The other
impact.
thing I had was trying to do rough calculations between the 25th and the 1st. We'll never have 5 days. We'll never have 5 days. I think the most that I calculated was they're either going to be a 3 or 4 day closure. Is that? Mike?
And you're including the weekends, is that why? Is
No,
that?
forget the weekends. So if the 25th is on Friday,
Mhm.
then we would be closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But we're normally closed December 31st anyway, right?
Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we're not. We're open December 31st.
But we're closed December 24th.
Yes.
Okay, so Christmas is on Friday. 4 days we'd be
25th,
closed.
okay.
If Christmas is on Monday, we still only have 4 days closed. We'll never have 5 days closed. Right? I see head shaking. So you-
Yes.
Not sure.
Yes. So, so say Christmas is on Monday, is that what you're saying? 25th
Yeah.
is a holiday. And then we would potentially, and then it depends on if it's a Friday on or Friday off.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Okay. All right. I think I have that in my foggy brain. Art and then Art.
Did you state that Newport Beach makes them use their cured leave? Cured leave?
Newport Beach, they are closed, yes. They're half day on the 24th and then they're closed through,
But they have to use their accrued leave.
oh, yes,
Okay,
that's what we're
That's
proposing,
what I
yes.
think we should be.
Yes, that's
That's what we do now, right?
yes, and that's what we're proposing. If we were to close to the public during those days, staff has to use their accrued leave.
They're using their leave. We're just not giving it to them. You have to use.
No, it's not a holiday. We're not asking for more
But
holidays.
the office will still be closed.
Possibly, or maybe not, based on how many people are here.
Well, if someone decides to come to work, we're still gonna be closed.
Right.
They're not gonna answer the
Right.
phones and things like
They
that.
actually probably would get a lot more done.
I was under the belief that we were going to give them that time off.
Oh, no.
A cured leave, using that is fine with me.
Yeah. Early.
Does it seem like there's an increase in phone calls during the holidays?
There's a
Or do you think it's
decrease.
the same?
Yeah, we get less calls during that time and we definitely don't get the walk-in traffic. And honestly, I think most people assume we are closed because the city of Costa Mesa is closed. So they just assume we are as well.
From personal experience, my office was generally open during that week. And I can't tell you how many times we would get messages. Oh, I know you're closed, so I'm gonna leave a message, or you answer the phone, they go, why are you in the office? I mean, that was very common in my career.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
but
people
that's
thinks
that's-
don't go there, don't go there.
every Wednesday.
Well, just Wednesday morning. Bob?
Well, you gave data, in the city of Costa Mesa. Can staff show up
I
at the
believe,
office?
with supervisor approval, they can. If they don't, and then of course you have public safety who would, that they would be required to still work.
On my time on council, I remember talking about this, and they could come in, like Diana said, with
Yeah.
supervisor approval.
Well, if they come in, I don't understand why they couldn't man the phones.
Well, I guess we would have to make that decision because if somebody, if we didn't come in, if the office was vacant, so we wouldn't want to rely on that. The phones, and like the report, like I stated, there's CR and R questions, so those would still go through to CR and R.
Is that how our telephone system is set up?
You can do that right now.
No, I mean, so if I call in during that time, there's a list of options. Yeah, I don't have a problem with what you're attempting to do, and
Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this matter? You're both Costa Mesa residents, so. Okay. All right, board,
I'll move for approval of the presentation as presented.
Second.
before I take a vote, I would really like us to take a look at this. After the holiday, let's get a report on what you saw, what happened, and if it becomes a disaster, I want to be prepared. I don't think it will, but let's cover ourselves just in case. Okay, discussion. All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. All right, speaking of Christmas, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to turn it over to Marissa Pereira. She's going to give this report.
Go ahead.
Good evening, President and Board. First, I would like to recognize our solid waste intern, Stephanie Tsai, for writing this report. She's been doing fantastic work for the Solid Waste Department. We're very happy to have her on board. She couldn't be with us tonight, but I just wanted to recognize that she did put this report together. So moving into the Christmas tree collection report for this year, for the second year, trees were collected starting the day after New Year's Day, running for 2 weeks through January 16th. This year, CR&R did extend that dedicated collection period through January 18th. During that period, 5,384 trees were collected for a total of 25.8 tons. You can see on the charts on the staff report how this compares to collections for previous years. CR&R does believe that the tonnage, the decrease in tonnage this year can be attributed to more customers cutting up their trees and placing them in the organics cart versus putting them out as a separate item for collection. Looking at the tonnage numbers from this January compared to last January, it seems to support that theory because there was, I believe, 100-ton approximately increase from last January. Complaints for missed trees increased from 34 received last year to 98 received this year. 48 of the complaints were for multiple homes or for entire streets or multiple streets. CR&R scheduled to return to collect those trees typically the following business day. We did receive 9 reports that those were not completed as scheduled. Given the high incidence of complaints that we saw this year, staff is recommending that we consider hiring a third party to supplement Christmas tree collection in 2026. The district did utilize a third-party hauler in 2023 for the same reason. There had been a high incidence of complaints the year prior, and the third-party hauler was called on to assist with missed complaints as they were received. The district pays the organics recycling rate of $81.66 per ton for all organic waste, including Christmas trees. With 25.8 tons collected, the total cost for the program was $2,172.10, which is funded by the organics disposal cost in the budget. This concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions that you have.
Julie, do you have any comments regarding the complaints? Or Mike? I mean, I would think some of them are not valid because of the timing and what's on the Christmas tree.
Some were not valid, some of them were. We acknowledge that we had more than we had last year. It works out to be about 5 per day. Extra misses. We were cognizant of those reports and proactive driving around. We had our sustainability staff scouring the entire neighborhood of the reported misses. So if somebody called and said, I have missed pickup on California Street, we weren't just looking at that one address, we were looking at the entirety of the neighborhood, notifying the route manager to be able to sweep the entire area for those.
Because I saw both trucks on Madera Street together, you know. You had the enclosed truck, then you had the big truck, and they did a real good job. But is this after the timing of the Christmas tree? The time that we stopped doing it?
We did collect even after the program ended, and we collected those as bulky, so that would support your observation of an enclosed box truck that we typically use to collect bulky pickups as well. We did have some calls after the program ended, and we did have some calls the week before the program started, so that week before, between Christmas and New Year's, or January 2nd when the program started. Those weren't attributed to any of the misses, though, that you guys have recorded.
That's a bonus for us that you guys do that for us, you know.
Well, did I hear staff say that they were suggesting that that CRNR hire a private contractor to supplement the program?
That the district, yes, contract with the private hauler and then seek reimbursement from CRNR for the cost of that service.
It cost the district $2,000 approximately, for this service from CRNR. I can't imagine that a private contractor wouldn't cost thousands more.
I think the report has the cost for the last time we used that service. If it's not there, if I recall correctly, it was around $2,500 in 2023. to have-
2,500 for the entire 2-week period?
Yes, for the entire cost of that contractor.
Okay. That,
Do you have a comment on that, Mike?
About hiring when
Yes,
the
yes.
one time you did it, I don't have the numbers in front of me, how many they collected. That would be something
That would be an added cost for CNR to do that, wouldn't it?
if you decided to exercise that route, yes.
Is that part of the contract already, Scott?
Well, the contract is to pick up the Christmas trees in an efficient, effective manner. And when we get complaints after complaints of the same residents, we rather just get it done, resolve it. And we think by having a third party, and maybe it's because the CNR is busy with other cities, other haulers, or other services. It could be down a driver. We don't know, but we're trying to provide good customer service. And so when we're getting a lot of complaints, we want to just get it resolved, get it done. That's why we hire as a backup.
Do you have data on when those complaints came in versus when we started the program, when we ended it?
Sure, I think we
Are you referring to the number of complaints in the report?
The
98.
Referring, not the total, when they came in.
Yes, we have data on them.
I'd like to see, did you present that in here? I didn't.
It's not in the report, no, but we can assemble that for you.
well, basically, the private contractor would do the same route. People are supposed to put their Christmas trees out on the day of their carts go out. And unless they cover the whole city, I wouldn't think they'd be able to do too much more, than CRNR supposedly does now.
Well, the way the program would work is they would just go on an on-call basis. So they're not, the third party's not roaming around the district looking for trees.
Okay.
So if we get a complaint and CNR didn't, and CNR didn't respond in an efficient manner or missed it a couple times, we'll pick up the phone, call a third party, hey, go to this location, pick up the tree. That's what they're doing. They're not roaming the city.
No, but Bob's stating that they're supposed to have the tree out there the same day as their pickup, or the
Right.
trash pickup.
Right.
That doesn't always happen like that. They put them out anytime they want. I've seen on Country Club Drive, they're out there like a week early, sitting there for 2 weeks before we even start.
We do account for that. When Stephanie went through the data, she was advised to recognize if someone put it out early, if they put it out, if it wasn't out on their service day, and those kinds of incidences. So this number should reflect trees that were out on service day and weren't collected on service day.
You know, but that still could be a complaint that you would receive even though it was not on the service day.
I understand, but you also understand, we don't want to get in an argument with the residents and, you know, say, well, you should have put it out when you should have, you know, you didn't put it out properly, so therefore we're not picking it up. You can understand kind of response they're going to have on us on that. So we understand that, we take that with a grain of salt, that, you know, if it's out late, you know, we'll tell us, hey, can you go pick that up? And if they can't get to it, then we're going to go out and pick it up, because we don't want the Christmas tree out there
I
for a
know,
whole
but you're
week.
penalizing CRNR for that and making them pay for that. service.
We're just trying to provide good customer
Yeah,
service.
that should be something that we assume as a cost, not CRNR, I believe, because we're trying to be nice to the customers. Why should we have CRNR pay for that when they're doing their job? We-
I think the expectation is that the tree is collected on service day, and so we're trying to remedy the trees that are not being collected. If a customer puts it out on service day and says 3 weeks later it's still at the curb, then it's been missed multiple service days, and we want to address those types of complaints.
I don't know. I don't really like that idea of having to pay extra for CRNR to do that personally.
Wait, don't they get 2 like large trash removals per year? Isn't that included?
But they could if they.
But they don't pay extra for it.
Oh, they get
They
it
could
for free.
use one of those if they miss the Christmas tree deadline.
If the customer missed the deadline, but this is referring to trees that were out and were missed as part of the Christmas tree collection program. If the customer misses the period, the window, then there are other options. But this is just for trees that were missed when they should have been collected during that window.
You're right.
Okay, my turn. This is off the wall question. Is there a new truck that you have now? It's a beautiful, big, huge truck. Was it just during the holidays?
We do utilize different trucks and sometimes even rental trucks to be able to collect the bulky items or sometimes the Christmas trees.
Anyway, it's very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Well, no, we had 33 customer complaints. Is this something, I think this is something that should include in the survey about how important, this particular complaint is. Are we near ready to do another customer survey?
It'll be in the budget for next fiscal year, yes.
I think we ought to include that kind of a concept in one of the questions. And I think you'll find that, 98% of the people are saying we do a good job.
Yeah.
Or, or may come in 10% of the people say we're doing a good job. It's likely not to stir up much controversy.
Okay, so as I drive around and I see trees that are sitting out, and I know pretty much what their pickup date is. The ones I see are ones you can't pick up.
Yeah.
And we have no idea, these people who complain, whether they didn't take their stand off or it's wrapped. We don't know that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I imagine CRNR would let us know if there was something that couldn't be picked up for some reason, but
I guess what I'm getting at is, so we get these people going out to pick up the tree. They're separate from the regular pickups, which I don't want to mess with, obviously. How much trouble would it be for that pickup person to have a tag that says, sorry, we can't pick up your tree because check a box, stands on there, wrapped in? How much trouble would that be? I have a feeling that these complaints are people who didn't follow the right protocols anyway. I just have that gut feeling.
Some of them are, yes. Yeah, a separate oops tag.
Yeah, the oops tag, that's right. I mean, we're big on education, and if we can educate these people, hey, you forgot to take your wooden blocks out, Although most trees don't have wooden blocks on them anymore, they have rebar blocks
Right.
on them, which you guys could put in the recycling bin.
We don't want them going in the chipper of the,
Yeah.
of the organics.
Good call. So I think we need to think about that. Okay?
I've also seen Mike CRNR pick up the ones that have the stands on
Yeah,
them.
they have. But they're not they're not supposed to,
Yeah,
but they do
that's
it
what-
anyway.
Yeah.
And they're, then we're dinging them for not paying the extra cost to have somebody else do it,
Yeah, I
I don't like that idea personally.
In the vast majority of the ones that were reported as missed, we service the next day, which would be the same in effect that you would be getting reported from the third-party recovery team.
The other off the wall, to steal a phrase.
It's okay. Follow me.
Bear with me on this because this is gonna sound weird. How many Christmas trees are there in lots are there in Costa Mesa? I don't know. That's a rhetorical question. I don't expect an answer. Where do most people buy their trees in Costa Mesa?
Noonan's,
No, they don't buy
don't
more
think,
trees.
Yeah,
Home Depot?
Home
Home
Depot.
Depot.
Yeah.
Home Depot.
County Fair.
Yeah, Home Depot by far
Yeah.
sells more trees than anybody. And then there's Noonan's and then there's a couple of
Fairgrounds.
others.
Oh.
How much trouble would it be to go to those places? I know what Home Depot's gonna say, but to go to those places and say, hey, when you sell a tree to someone who lives in Costa Mesa, could you give them this? You know, give them this little slip that says, hey, Costa Mesa Sanitary District and our trash hauler CR&R are gonna pick up your Christmas tree, but you have to do checklist. Something to think about. I mean, let's educate these
For sure.
places. And Home Depot doesn't have just Costa Mesa people, but I bet 90% of the people who buy a tree at Home Depot are in Costa Mesa. And if we get to 90%, maybe we can mitigate some stuff.
I think a concern that I might have would be if multifamily customers are receiving those flyers and now we're seeing trees put out with the
Yeah.
expectation that they're going to be picked up and they're not our customer.
You're a lot smarter than me, so I appreciate that. But, okay, so we don't give them a flyer. We put up a sign as they're leaving the Home Depot that says, hey, if you need your tree collected and you're in a single family home or whatever, it's just another educational component that we might look at.
We put something on the trucks, like on the,
We do.
you do put something on the trucks
There's-
prior to Christmas that says the policy of, okay.
It has the general, I mean, it has the dates, but it's not, there's not enough area to put the full requirements for the trees. It just says collection is occurring, Christmas tree collection is occurring on these dates. But we do send out our email blasts
Sure.
and social media and on our website with that information.
What about physical mailers?
It's in our newsletter, from what I recall. It's something that would appear in our newsletter, so it's going out through the mail that way.
Might
as
be
well.
worth it to do a dedicated piece of mail, just in case people don't open the newsletter.
It also could be in the Costa Mesa Minute.
That would be smart.
That would be,
That would
again,
be
another
free.
component that we could use.
What's the cost of a mailer usually for everybody in the city?
Let's not forget one thing. There are artificial trees too that a lot of people use. Whether you believe it or not, they do.
My oldest granddaughter talked us into getting an artificial tree because she didn't want, to waste trees. Then I heard a report that a real Christmas tree, they grow back. I mean, there's plenty of them and they get recycled, they get put to organic. And a artificial Christmas tree that gets put in the landfill will sit in the landfill for 99 or more years before it disintegrates. So I told my granddaughter, it's better to have a real tree. I digress. So I think we need to before we start doing fines and stuff, I think we need to look at all these options. Or not fines, third parties.
Complaints.
Okay, we drug this one enough?
Art had a question about
Go.
the cost.
Yeah, what was the cost for a flyer? Because that might be
Oh.
significant.
The cost of flight to mail it?
Yes.
It'll be a little pricey because it's the postage that's gonna be costly.
When's our last mailer of the year usually?
The last newsletter?
I mean, when is our normal newsletter goes out? Okay, so that could be in that one. for
Yeah,
sure.
and we do put it in
We
that one.
do, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one we put it in.
Really specific, exactly.
It's usually the front page.
Like on
Yeah.
the cover,
Okay.
yeah.
That's, as long as we do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think CNR should be responsible for paying that bill for us hiring somebody to do it, when I think they do a great job already.
If
Well,
you'd like, I
if-
could
if-
provide you the cost of postcards. In some of our jurisdictions, we send postcards to all of the residents in advance of the Christmas tree or
When would those?
the holiday greenery
When
program.
would those go out? Same
Beginning
time
of
as our
December.
newsletter?
We'd send them out the beginning of December, listing the dates. So it
That
hit
is-
mailboxes December 10th.
Does CRNR do that or?
For some of our cities that were contractually obligated to perform that, we do.
Is that part of our contract now?
That's not part of your contract, but I can share the cost of what we paid for a similar sized city, if that helps, as opposed to a first-class mail piece, which would be
Yeah, but
significant.
we're gonna send that mailer out anyway. We're newsletters going out at
Newsletter.
that quarter
Mhm.
that's going out, so we can make that really enforcing. And at least give the idea to the residents what to do.
No, all those Christmas trees are going to the AD facility, right?
Correct.
Got a good benefit there.
You know, just to frustrate you a little,
I'm already frustrated.
I'm thinking, we have a newsletter, and as the newsletter goes out for the holiday.
Yeah, that's what we were just saying.
Oh,
And it needs to be a front page.
yeah.
Big things.
Yeah.
Anything else? We'll receive and file this, and please express our gratitude to your intern for a good report.
I will, thank
Let her
you.
know how much conversation it generated.
I'll ask her to watch the recording, so, thank you.
All right. Item 4, Scott, is that Mark or is that?
Yes, Mark Davis. Mark Davis will be giving us a report, our district treasurer.
You're on, bud.
Scott had asked, if we would bring back this project. Just kind of as a refresher, for you all. And such a fan of you, here's what we can and can't do and how. As to what you can and can't do as far from an investing standpoint. Next slide. So we're going to go over some terminology. We'll talk at a 30,000 foot level on your policy and your philosophy. We'll talk about how investments get placed, what permitted and allowable investments are, the current environment out there right now, a little bit on risk, liquidity, and return, and then how, when the market moves, how that impacts your portfolio. Next slide. So from a terminology standpoint, when I present your portfolio, or we have the investment report discussion once a quarter, sometimes I'll throw terms out, or when we adopt your policy, we'll throw terms out. This is just a cheat sheet over what those are. So when I say coupon, it really refers to your interest that you're earning on a given investment. If we say par or par value, that's the face value of an investment. Premium means that we paid more than the face value, and discount means we paid less than the face value. The term bullet refers to the interest rate on a security that doesn't change throughout the entire life of the security. Callable means that the investment can be called prior to maturity, meaning that the issuer wants that investment back and is going to return our funds to us prior to maturity. Step up means that the interest rate will increase over time on the investment. Purchase date, that one's kind of an obvious one. It's really the date that we purchased the investment. The settlement date is the date that we pay for the investments. Two different things. Many times we will buy an investment, sometimes a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before it actually settles. We'll buy investment, place an order, if you will. We don't pay for that investment until the settlement date. The custodian is the company that actually holds our securities. We don't take custody of those securities. Every time we buy a security, they're held by a company called Pershing. They'll take delivery of the securities. All of our securities are purchased on what's referred to as a delivery versus payment methodology. And what that is that the custodian will play third party for us. We'll place an order, we'll give that order to the custodian. They know what's supposed to be delivered on the date that the settlement occurs. The custodian will receive the investment, they'll match it up against our order, and if everything's the same, then they'll send the money to whoever we bought the security from. And then laddered portfolio just means that the maturity dates are really distributed over time. And in the investment report, there's a graph in the investment report that is a bar chart that shows years 1 through 5 of your portfolio, and you can see how the distribution of those securities are. From a investment policy perspective, many years ago, it used to be required that government agencies adopted an investment policy, but that's no longer a requirement in the California Government Code. But we do believe it's a good practice that you do that, and you are doing that every June. The same time that you're adopting your budget, we'll bring the investment policy to you at that same time so you can review it. An important point here is you, as the board, are responsible for placing your investments. You do have the option for a 1-year period to delegate that investment authority to a treasurer, and you have done that, or the board's done that consistently since inception. But it is your responsibility for that investment function. Interestingly enough, the county's been going through an issue to where the Board of Supervisors have pulled that investment function away from the elected treasurer, and they've placed that with the CFO. So right now, the county treasurer is not making the investments on behalf of the county.
That's very smart.
There's
something
No, I
internally-
don't think
there's
so.
something
I think if
internally
you have
going
a
on.
treasurer should be placing. the
Yeah, that's what I
investments.
thought.
But there's other reasons that are going on.
Okay.
So they gave it to CFO and not
The treasurer.
themselves. I mean,
Yeah, they don't want to do it themselves. Yeah, no board wants to do it themselves or take on that responsibility. They always end up, it's most common that they ends up getting delegated to a treasurer.
Know what the vote was in the board?
I have no idea.
Was it?
The objectives in your investment policy there's 4 main objectives, and these are in the order that we consider them: safety first, then liquidity, then diversification, then yield. So anytime we look at an investment, we're going to look at how safe that investment is. If it meets our safety criteria, we'll look at the liquidity. Does it meet our cash flow needs based upon your budget, based upon projected projects, not based upon emergency projects that your district engineer may come up with? That's not in there. Then we look at diversification to make sure we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. Only after all 3 of those are satisfied, then we'll go after the largest yield we can get. So
Mark, do we have more liquidity if we need the money? Do we have liquidity in most of our functions if we need the money?
We do have.
For Mark?
We do. And the emergency project and when the bills are coming in for that kind of came at a good time. It came from at a period when we're not cash poor. You know, if the invoices and everything would have come in between May and November, when we don't really have any revenue coming in, yeah, it would have been tighter. It would have been an unplanned type of item. But when that project came about, the funding all happened from other existing projects. So we know each year when you approve your CIP program, we plan on that all of that's going to get expended within 1 year. And so we try to make sure we stay liquid so that we can meet what your prerogatives are, what your
budget is out there for that individual year. If there's additional expenses that come in that were not planned, were not budgeted, those could end up playing a little bit of havoc. We might end up having to sell investments a little bit early if those situations arise. We've never been in that situation before. In your investment report each month, we do disclose, it's on the page that has all the graphs as well, it discloses the percent of the of your portfolio that matures within a year. And so you can see how much it is. And right now, we're sitting at about 60% of your portfolio matures within a 1-year time frame,
What's the longest maturity date we have?
5 years. So when we do look at placing investments, we do evaluate the investments just at the time of purchase. We don't look and say, okay, well, gosh, interest rates are going to go up in the next couple months or they're going to go down. We don't bring out the crystal ball to take a look at those things and try to time the market. We just look at, okay, there's extra funds right now. We're going to put those funds out for a period of time, look at the cash flows, and then make the investment. So we have a very, you as a board have a very passive investment philosophy. Everything's really just kind of buy and hold. We're not looking to turn the investments over, not looking just to buy and sell and try to generate profits, if you will, because we can also time those very poorly and generate losses. So it is just a very passive investment philosophy. What will happen then is we'll get to that in a second on the current how your portfolio is impacted with the market. Next slide. So when we place investments, this is the first bullet here is just a little bit outdated, but your policy does allow for us to use broker-dealers in placing investments. And in years past, we had a limitation put on that we would only have one broker-dealer for every $5 million in portfolio that you have, and you have about $25 million under investment right now. So that would say, well, we could have up to 5 broker-dealers helping us. The real goal on that is to limit the number of phone calls that we get on people trying to place investments on behalf of the district. Several years ago, there was Scott had found through his connections a company called or a platform called eConnect Direct, which is a platform offered by MBS Securities. And it allows us to place our own investments without the use of a broker-dealer. And we've been using that now for, gosh, 5 or 6 years at least. It is not just securities that are on the inventory of MBS Securities. It actually opens up to everything that's available out there that we can buy. If we have a broker-dealer that's on board, they're just going to sell us what they have in inventory. And they're only going to show us what they have in inventory. We have the ability right now to be able to see lots of inventory that's out there, not just sitting with what's at MBS Securities.
Without a broker-dealer, we're probably saving broker fees and
Saving in
a lot of money,
fees.
or not a lot, but it's got to be substantial.
It's the way that the broker-dealers get compensated is they will sell us a security. They may have a security that has an interest rate at 3%. They'll sell us the security at 2.8 or 2.9%. So when they're going to make a 10 basis points on the sale to us, we don't see what those are. We just have to compare, okay, well, if we want to buy this, what is this broker going to sell it for us at? What is broker number 2 going to sell it for us at? What is broker number 3? And then try to find the best deal from that standpoint to limit the amount that the brokers will take. But we know they're going to take a commission, as does eConnect Direct. Yes. eConnect Direct, MBS Securities, they're going to take a commission as well. We've just seen that their rates are better than if we work directly with a broker-dealer. So this slide and the next slide shows your permitted investments and the allowable investments. Everything that's going to appear on both of these slides are going to be allowable. When I say allowable, we can only invest in securities that are allowed by the California Government Code. And then you can further restrict those securities if you so desire, or the amount that you want to place in any given security by policy, which you do. And so this slide here shows you everything that we're currently allowed to invest in at the district, what your percent that's allowable and what the maturity is, as compared to what the California Government Code is. You can see in a lot of things that we line up very similar to the California Government Code, with the exception of bankers' acceptances, where we further limit that to only 25% of the portfolio, and also LAIF. LAIF can go up to $75 million, or they accept deposits of $75 million per government agency. We had decided from a diversification standpoint that you wanted to restrict that to only 50% of your portfolio, not have any more than 50% of your portfolio in LAIF. Well, could you go back one slide? We'll probably, when we bring the policy to you in June, we're probably going to take the bankers' acceptances off. We haven't really placed bankers' acceptances at the district in probably 20 years. We're just really not using them, and so there's no reason to keep them on as a permitted investment if there's no, if we're not placing any investments there.
Talk a little bit about, I'm not sure I've seen that term, shares of beneficial interest.
Yeah, those are like mutual funds. The government code calls mutual funds shares of beneficial interest. Yeah, that's more the real term for them. We all know them as mutual funds.
Do we invest in mutual funds?
We do actually, class.
Okay.
Your investment in class is considered to be a shares of beneficial interest. So we do have an investment in mutual funds. Okay, next slide. So these items here are also allowed by the California Government Code, but your policy does not allow us to invest in those. And these would be items such as bonds that you might issue. You can invest in your own bonds. You can invest in bonds that any other California agency issues. You can, or the state of California issues. You can invest in bonds that any city or other special district might issue. You can invest in repurchase agreements, reverse repurchase agreements, asset-backed securities, and mortgage-backed securities. You've taken a pretty conservative approach and decided not to do any of those types of investments. And given the small portfolio, I really wouldn't, when we get to June, again, I wouldn't be recommending adding any of those items.
Are those property investments?
Or what property
I'm
investments?
sorry, the asset and the mortgage back.
The asset-backed securities and mortgage-backed securities, the mortgage-backed is, asset-backed is not. So like on the on an asset-backed security, if you think of a car dealership, and a car dealership is selling cars, and they might have a financing department, and they are financing all those cars. Well, if they just keep financing those cars, they're going to get short on cash. And so what they'll do is they'll say, okay, I'm going to take all of these loans that I've made to people, I'm going to sell all these loans, or I'm going to give these loans over to a bank. And then the bank will look at those, they'll pay for those loans, so the dealership will get now more cash in, and they'll start making more loans. The bank will take those loans, and they will break them up into what's called tranches. They'll come up with pools of loans that are similar in maturity, maybe similar in interest rate, maybe similar in dollar amount, and then they will pool those loans, and they'll sell those as security to the open market, to us. We would buy those groups of loans that are secured by car loans. If
You're saying we don't want to get in the car loan business? Is that what-
Well, they really wouldn't be car loans at that point, but no, we don't. If we had a very, very large portfolio, it'd be another good way to diversify your portfolio. Mortgage-backed is the same type of things, but it's just mortgages.
What do you consider a large amount?
Probably like 100 million.
We're not quite there.
We're not even. Next slide. So this we just pulled out today. So if you're looking at a paper copy that of the agenda from earlier or yesterday, the slide would be just a little bit different. This just shows you what the current environment is of treasuries. Today, a 1-month treasury is yielding 4.308%, and the 30-year treasury is at 4.653%. So if you look at this, if you look at just the first 1 to 5 years, 1 month to 5 years, that's all you can play on the from a maturity standpoint. Your securities can't have a final maturity longer than 5 years per California government code. So you can see in the very short term, and this has been this way for a while now, in the very short term, rates are higher, but then when you get to the 1-year mark or the 2-year mark, they drop. And then they'll start to go back up over time. Not a normal yield curve. Normal yield curve would be very low on the front end and much higher on the longer you go out. Next slide. So here for the types of investments that we invest in, it shows what the current rates are, with the most secure investments up top with the U.S. Treasuries and the U.S. government securities. The moderate investments or moderate risk investments are the commercial paper and the negotiable CTs and the medium-term notes. We don't have any commercial paper right now, but we do have negotiable CDs. We do have medium-term notes. Your pools are LAIF, CLASS, and CalTrust. We currently don't have any funds in CalTrust. We've just limited it to LAIF and CLASS at this point. But I just wanted to give you a snapshot that everything, you can see from the most secure things at about 4.3% buying at a 1 month out to 5 years. The more riskier investment we can do is a medium-term note. Those are debt issued by corporations. That's only at about 5.5% for a 5-year term. Next slide. So when the market moves, or let me back up, California Government Code doesn't allow you to invest in stocks. Everything that we trade in are just fixed income securities. And so what that means is that when interest rates go up, we're going to see the market value of your portfolio is going to go down. When interest rates go down, the market value on your portfolio is going to go up. So we've been underwater for a while now as interest rates went up. We ended up buying a lot of our securities at the time COVID happened and the market was way down. So because everything is at a fixed rate, when you see your investment report every month, we're underwater, and we've been underwater for a long time. As the Feds will continue to cut rates, we don't have to do anything, and the value, your market value, will continue to go up during those period of times. And then the same thing relationship to stocks. When stocks goes up, we invest mostly in bonds. Bond values generally go down, and the inverse. When stock prices go down, bond values tend to go up. And with that, I think that is the last.
Are bonds generally considered fixed income?
Yes. No, generally they don't have to be.
That's why if we do some bonds.
We do. All of the U.S. government agency securities we have, the Freddie Macs, the Fannie Maes, the farm credits, those are all bonds. And those are all fixed income. We get a fixed interest rate for a period of time. The only difference is that some of the bonds that we hold are non-callable, meaning that we hold them that Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac won't ask for them back. Many of the bonds that we own are callable. And Fannie and Freddie Mac do that so that they can hedge their bet as the market moves. And if it moves in a direction that's not advantageous for them, then they're going to call those bonds back, which we're seeing. We have some bonds in the 5% range. And when we hit a call date, we're going to expect when rates are going to go down, we're going to expect that the federal agencies are going to ask for those back because they're not going to want to pay 5% on that if they can turn around and get that money back and reissue the same debt at a lower interest rate.
On our bond process, what's generally the income period, or what are they yearly bonds? I mean, if they're callable, they can call them.
Oh, it depends. Each bond could have its own separate call feature. And there's a page in your investment report that has all of the call features of all of the bonds that we have, but they could vary from a period where the bond may be non-callable for 1 or 2 years, and then it may be callable monthly thereafter.
Questions for Mr. Davis? Anybody? You make it easy to understand. I appreciate that. We all do.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll move to our engineer for his report.
Yeah, I get to report on all the interesting stuff, not just me.
Listen,
Bad joke.
making money is far more interesting than digging a hole.
Well, not to me, but you know, I'm one of those kinds. I'm gonna go over my engineer's report this month, very high level. Project 330 West Bluff, there's an agenda item. We're basically closed out. I do have to pay for some landscaping work over at the local HOA there, and I'm going to be discussing that with them shortly, and hopefully we'll get that resolved pretty quickly, pay them out so that we can transfer the money for any leftover money from that into some other projects. Eldon Force Main, the plan is to be done this summer. It could be early fall, depending on the soils investigation that we're starting to undertake. I'm going to say in the next couple of weeks, we'll see drill rigs out next to the freeway over by the Santana Country Club, and they'll probably be drilling 50, 60-foot deep holes down there to figure out what we're going to run into when we do our construction. Project 346 Harbor Generator Addition, as Director Uten suggested last month, we've been looking into maybe transforming that into a different project. The more I look into where could we install a generator for that facility, it seems like we'd have to buy some pretty expensive land or condemn something, somehow beg, borrow, still easement. So it's looking to be, that may become a pretty expensive proposition. So it might be easier just to buy more time and build a overflow. I'll have to give you more information when we start working on that project in earnest. Mendoza Force Main, we're working on design, going over that with our staff. They had some recommendations, and RBH, our contracted engineering consultant, is making some changes, and then we'll take a look and see what the follow-up design looks like from that. Eldon fan improvement, there's a couple of items I'll be talking about tonight. And then I have the pleasure of reporting that South Coast Plaza, the construction is done. And I don't have to be out there at night or all day or anything anymore. The last thing I want to report to you, it's not in my report, but next week I'll be submitting, or this week I'll be submitting for next week, a community advisory committee meeting, an item on our permit and fixture fee studies. I'll be providing them with some draft information and seeing what kind of feedback we get from the CAC. With that, that concludes my district engineer's report. Are there any questions before I go to other reports?
Yes, I see on here. Go ahead, Renee.
I was curious, on the one that's near the Santa Ana Country Club,
Yes.
is that going to affect the traffic?
No, where we're going to be drilling is off the side of the road. We may take I'll say a parking or a little bit of the left-hand lane, or we'll be up on the dirt area between the Caltrans fence and the.
Okay, the reason why I'm saying this is because the Orange County Fair comes into play. And, you know, I was worried about the traffic.
Oh, we'll probably have these drilled and done after, I'm going to say, a couple of days. We're in and out. The holes that we're drilling are only about 4 or 5 inches in diameter.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mark. Project 515 sewer repair and replacements. It's new. Did we find new 4 and 5?
We have a list of them. I don't have them memorized, but we do have projects that mostly 4s that Mike Benish and I will talk about that, get a set of projects, and we will be doing relinings rather than dig and replace wherever we can.
Are these new lists? Is this a new list for us? Or an
Old list, but it's a new, I'll call it a phase. I'm
In the past, you've seen, I can't remember what the old project number was, but it'll be I'll make up a project number 315, phase 1, 2, 3, and 9 years later, we still have the same project number. And after a while, all the invoices and everything gets blurred. So I've worked with our finance manager, and she's allowing me to now create a new project number every year. So we've got a beginning and an end for even repair projects.
These projects normally come from staff.
Some come from staffs, some come from the CCTV videos that we have performed, and we've got a whole long list of those, never enough money to line all of them. And then some just pop up.
Because we like to see the 4s and 5s get completed as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm working on is with our GIS provider is I would like to have an active map that when we do our next CCTV and we put the data into the GIS, it will show 5s as red and maybe 4s and 3s as yellow, and that way we could produce a map and show you what our system looks like and work on the reds and the yellows, let's call it, and get everything green. But yes, I agree with you.
Oh,
I had another question.
Hmm?
Did you see where South Coast Plaza, the roof fell in?
No,
It was in the newspaper.
oh,
I just wondered if we have any effect on this.
I don't think we had any effect on their structure.
Okay.
I was very worried about the parking structure that we're right next to because, I mean, we're literally right next to that parking structure.
well, this is a different process. Historically, what we've done is CCTV, and then we get a list of projects, and then we work our way through that.
Yes.
So this is a proactive approach to try to get them done
As soon as possible.
as soon as possible, yeah.
That's been our past history in theory that get it done.
Yeah, for example, if CCTV created a list of 100 grade 5s and grade 4 defects that we need to address, and I can only do, I'll say, 10 one year and 20 the next year, every year I'll start working away through the list, and that's what I've been doing the last 4 years I've been here. I'm presuming the previous district engineer did the same thing. Anything else? All right. My next item is regarding Project 330 West Bluff Pump Station. This was one of the projects I mentioned in my report. The construction work is completed, and so I'll be asking you to do some things, I'll be recommending some actions for you to take tonight. Vicon Enterprise Incorporated is a contractor that was doing the work, and they completed that work on or about January 18th of 2025. The work basically replaced the mechanical piping, equipment, and did that renovation. It replaced the top of the lid of the wet well that was very corroded, and then we had to move the electrical panel and separate the electrical meter from that panel in order to meet current electrical codes. So that was basically the work, and it is now completed, except for some work that I got to do between us and the homeowners association. When we began the project, they wanted to have their landscaper do the landscape restoration. When we had discussed this with them, it made a lot of sense because they had some reasonable prices, at least at the time. And so we just need to pay them for the restoration. It's a little bit of turf, probably a half a dozen or a dozen shrubs. And then there is a little tree issue that we've got to talk about, but I think we can work it out and get that project completed. They have yet to provide me with a cost proposal to do the landscaping. So as soon as I get that from them, we'll probably go that direction because it seemed very reasonable to me, but I won't say yes until I see what they want to charge us. So with that, I will ask that the board, my recommended action to you tonight is to accept the improvements as complete, and we will file a notice of completion, exonerate the labor and material bonds 35 days after the notice of completion is recorded, exonerate the faithful performance bond 1 year after notice of completion is recorded, and then approve the closeout agreement between us and the contractor. That agreement just basically, he says that he has paid all of his subcontractors, vendors, materials, delivery people. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
I have one question.
Hmm?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear if you said when South Coast Plaza would be completed, if you, in your knowledge.
Say the question again, I'm sorry.
South Coast Plaza, when,
Is it completed?
It is, well, the construction work is completed. We're getting invoices from our contractors right now, much to Mark's chagrin. I think the first one was first invoice, big invoice came in, was $500,000 or 700,000, something like that. And I'm expecting another one that's probably 500,000 to come in here pretty quick. So we are working to get that project closed out so we can pay the invoices and start moving forward. Your general manager has asked me to close out the project because he would like to approach South Coast Plaza about cost sharing. And until we have all the prices, he doesn't want to go.
You're talking in March?
Probably March, we'll be back to do a
When?
closeout on that project.
Was the beginning, end, or do you know?
Well, I'm thinking if we don't, I'll have the final invoice here pretty.
let me interrupt. That's a different issue that is not agendized. So I'm a little reluctant to continue this discussion.
Okay.
I mean, we need to get back to the West Bluff, but South Coast Plaza is not on the agenda, so let's.
Oh, well, he was reporting on it.
No, he's talking about West Bluff.
Oh, I know, but I mean, he was reporting before on it.
I did mention South Coast Plaza as part of my engineer's report. I'm sorry, I thought we had moved on from that,
Yeah,
though.
you just
Okay,
said,
I'd forgotten that.
that's okay.
Move
Well, then-
approval on project 330 Westbrook Pump Station.
With all the recommendations?
Yes.
Recommended actions? I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve the recommended action. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Second item is, I need to make a CIP budget adjustment. There is a mistake on the report. If you look at the financial review section, I really need $25,000, not $15,000. I guess I had the one and the two were together and my typing skills aren't the best, so I need to change that to reflect 25,000. So I'll be asking for a budget adjustment of 25,000. So keep that number in mind. What I want to say is that I received an invoice for about a little over $53,000 from the city of Costa Mesa. It's for a street project that they completed back in 2020, 21 timeframe. And here it is 4 years or so later, and I get an invoice for $50,000. It came out of the woodworks at me. I didn't realize it. And so when we were making previous adjustments to put money aside for South Coast Plaza emergency work, I took a little bit of money out of all the budget items, and I guess I'm short a little bit in this one because I wasn't even here when I think that project got completed. So I was unaware that we had an outstanding debt of $53,000. So tonight's action will be to, I'm asking if you would consider approving a capital outlay adjustment of $25,000 from account 20-201350, basically demolish Hitchcrafter Building Project, to account 20-201-309-4300 City Manhole Adjustment Program for a no-cost change to the fiscal year budget.
With that.
That concludes my
With
report.
the stipulation that we go by what was presented.
I'll second it.
I have a question.
The agenda item says budget adjustment of 15,000.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning. That's a typo. If you look at the financial report on the backside, on the second page of my budget, it's really $25,000.
Okay.
So I trying to make the correction, and Director Arlene Schaefer caught it, and she recommended that change as well.
Oh, is this two separate actions, two different projects?
This is just one project. It's the report to move money from Project 350 Hitchcrafter Building demolition to the Project 309 City Manhole Adjustment Program.
Did you already make a motion?
Arlene did.
I'll second it.
Yeah. I made the
Did you,
motion.
Bob?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, Bob second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous
Okay.
approval.
My next one is to create a project and transfer money to that project so that we can get it moved along. You've probably heard me in the past report that we determined there's some electrical wire issues at Harbor and Irvine pump stations. They don't meet current, I'll say, California electrical codes. We determined some of this while we were doing the arc flash work a couple of years back. A past project over at Irvine Pump Station modified the electrical breakers to accommodate an addition of I'll say, an emergency standby generator. It's a permanent generator. That project neglected to remove the interlocking breakers that would accommodate a portable generator that we would have to cart over there. By not removing that breaker or modifying the breaker arrangement, if that breaker is operated in an inappropriate time, for example, staff may be not familiar or forgets that that particular breaker shouldn't be operated, we could have an electrical explosion or electrical fire, depending on when that would be tripped. And so we have to eliminate that with the appropriate breaker, and that's something that needs to be upgraded pretty quickly. So I'm creating a project in order to get that risk mitigated, and while I'm in there, I'll do the other work on the electrical wires for those two stations. So tonight I'll be asking you to create a project and take $100,000 from some other projects to make this happen. So tonight I'm asking you to consider adopting Project 535, Irvine and Harbor Pump Station electrical improvements as categorically exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act. And that one will have to be a separate item taken first. The second item is to approve the 24-25 fiscal year capital outlay budget adjustments as I've detailed in the financial report for a no-cost change to the fiscal year budget, and then to create the new project 353 Irvine and Harbor Pump Station electrical improvement budget of $100,000. That concludes my report. May I answer any questions or provide you with more detail?
Do we have flexibility at $100,000, Mark?
What do you mean
I
flexibility?
mean, do we have to set that aside, or is it something in the future?
No, I've got the design complete. I want to create a project and, or I'll finish up the project probably next week. And then I want to bid it and make the upgrades to the station, increase the wire sizes and change out the breaker. So that's what I'm doing with this project today. So I can move forward with this, I'll call it a semi-urgent project.
Are you contracting this or are we doing it?
We'll contract it out. We'll bid it and we'll make an award to the low bid contractor.
Okay. Other questions for Mark on this item? All right, we'll look for a motion.
I'll move for approval of project 535, adopting the project for $100,000.
All three components.
All three components as presented.
I'll have to ask legal counsel, but I think you have to adopt that as categorically exempt, and then you could do the other two. You have to do two action items tonight.
I'll also add that this California Environmental Quality Act is Public Resources Code 21,000 It's under section 15302. And approve the capital outlay budget adjustments and create a new project 535 on Irvine and Harbor Pump Station. So that's
Okay,
efficient.
we have to do number one as a separate motion.
Okay,
You need to do that first.
I did, I made that first motion,
Okay.
correct?
Do we have a second? Arlene seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion for exemption from CEQA is approved.
And then
Now-
I'd like to make a motion to approve 2025 capital outlay budget adjustments as detailed in the financial review below and create a new project. Can these be separate or can be added together?
Those two can be taken together, sir.
Create a new project 535 Irvine Harbor Pump Station electrical improvement budget of $100,000.
Motion, do we have a second? Thank you. That's your first
I know.
motion.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Discussion?
No.
Make a little note in there, little asterisk.
Put a little asterisk there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries as well, unanimous.
All right, my last and final report for the evening. As you recall, about a year or so ago, we bid a project to replace the fan and upgrade the ventilation system to comply with the National Fire Protection Association regulations. We have to follow those as part of the National Electric Code, California Electric Code, and just at Cal OSHA. So it's something that we had to make some upgrades in order to proceed with that project. The bids came back, man, 2.5 or 3 times more expensive than I had anticipated. Still to this day, I don't understand why. And I'll let you know that we recently bid electrical upgrades for that station, and our general manager will be making an award for about $34,000 here pretty quickly as soon as we get insurances and blah, 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 and get contracts signed. And that's what I thought the electrical should have been. And the electrical for that bid a year or so ago was, like I said, well over $100,000 on its way to $150,000. Don't know why, have no clue, but all the contractors were way up there. Pardon me?
Maybe the wrong scent beads have been, or whatever the scent beads are.
Oh, yeah.
Might be wrong.
Well, so that brings us, we took the project back. We reworked the project. And in the meantime, we were getting odor complaints from the golf course. We were getting, our staff working out there would talk to one of the neighbors, and they would say that the station is pretty odorous. And according to what we've been hearing, it's been odorous for a long time. I went and met with the Santa Ana Country Club, and they've explained that they've tried scent beads, they have tried scent sprays, and they were saying that the scent spray smelled like cherry poop, you know, and so it really wasn't very, it just smelled bad. So your general manager and I are trying to figure out how to address this system, and so trying to find out why we were so expensive, I went and visited some of our neighboring agencies, one of which was Huntington Beach, and we found out that they were installing not only just fans, but a whole odor control scrubber for $100,000 or less, depending on the size of the sewage pump station. And so we took a little bit of a turn and said, well, heck, why don't we take a page out of Huntington Beach playbook and let's install the odor system. And so we visited them. We found out that the system works, and in fact, their electrician turned off the power to show our electrician something at their pump station, and immediately that pump station started to smell. So the scrubber works very strong, very well. Huntington Beach actually installed 6 others, and the prices for this thing range anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000, depending on how big your station, how big a unit you have to purchase. So RBH and I, they're our contract engineering firm. They're designing the project for us. They've got the design completed, and we started talking to this particular vendor, and they were saying that these odor scrubbers are anywhere from 12, 16, 20 weeks out. And if I wait that long, we're not going to be installing the scrubber until late fall or maybe even Christmas time. So I'm coming to you tonight to expedite this so I can get the project in. My goal would be to install the project early summer, if not sooner, depending how quickly we can get this thing turned around. And so I'm making a recommendation to you to sole source a contract to Cinco Systems Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $36,720 for the purchase of a Peacemaker 6x5 air scrubber, and I've attached a quote for your information. The system, I think, is going to be exactly what we need, and if it works here, there's a couple other stations that I think we could probably use that at. President's Pump Station is another one. Lots of odor complaints there. So tonight I'll be asking you to consider approving a not-to-exceed sole source purchase order to Cineco Systems Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $36,720 for the purchase of a Peacemaker 6x5 air scrubber per attached quote 2022-801, including freight delivery and taxes. That concludes my report. Are there other questions or information I can provide?
Right, we have a member of the public, before I go to public comments, can't they try GAIN? Instead of send fees, they could use GAIN. Any questions for Mark on that?
Just a comment, I remember this project because the calls came in and people didn't understand why we couldn't do something to help it, and it stunk. Yeah, I remember that.
Public comment? Go to the mic. Go to the microphone.
My name is Mark Strickler. Mark, do you think that's going to work for not only that pump station, but furthermore for the other pump stations? You said that was about 36 grand for that one pump station. Do you think that's going to work for our city, that one pump station? And do you plan on continuing that for other pump stations?
I think you're asking, will this technology work to control odors at our pump stations? I believe it will. This pump station it's a tank that's about 7 feet tall, probably about 5 foot diameter, and it brings the air from the sewage wet well through this tank, and there's polymer and other things in this tank that basically absorb the rotten egg smell, or if there's mercaptans, which could be like a stinky cabbage smell to other things, it'll take those out as well, and it will work. The price tag, say $36,000, $37,000, is just for the equipment. Now I got to bid and pay a contractor to properly install it, which includes the foundation, some piping, and then tie into our new electrical. So altogether, I think we're going to spend a little less than $100,000, or right at 100 and some odd thousand for odor for that station. Other pump stations like President's Pump Station, the one I mentioned, which is out off of Victoria towards the west end of our service area, that one has plenty of electrical, so it wouldn't be $100,000, I don't believe, to install it. Maybe $70,000 to $70,000 range. But I haven't done any work on that one.
No worries. How many more pump
President?
stations do you plan to do?
Just, Mark, when you make comments, you're supposed to direct them to the board,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and then we'll ask the staff to answer.
Mark, I think Mark said we will do an evaluation after this of other pump stations, so.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rudin.
Sorry for the
No.
technicality.
Yeah, no worries.
We don't wanna
That's
get in
great.
trouble.
So, yeah.
There's a
Thank
reason
you.
for the
I
rule.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. And Mark. All right, we're looking for a motion then to approve or disapprove the sole source contract is.
I move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Go
Thank
get
you,
'em.
sir. Thank you, board.
Those golfers happy, would you? And the neighborhood. All right. Mark, Mark Davis, anything else for us?
No, nothing else this evening.
Thank you. Counselor, anything for us this evening?
Much. I promise you I'll have more in the future, but working on the selected laws memo, we've got to fix up the Brown Act and the 84-308 and the new Prop 218 procedures and make a recommendation to the new Prop 218 and prevailing wage cases. And I'll have more about that in the future, but not tonight, just a teaser tonight.
Okay.
Well, thanks. Nice to have you back. Your fill-in last month did a very admirable job. You did well. Sir?
Move on.
Oh, move along.
I'm supposed to be home cooking.
I don't know where I am. Local meetings. Bob, you're up first.
Oh, gee.
Oh, Orange County 10 District did standard repair and replacement. They're also bidding their CCTVing. They're hiring a corrosion consultant. And there were public affairs and legislative updates.
Anything else?
Well, that'll happen Wednesday night.
Anything else?
No.
Sarva, Art,
No meeting this month.
Arlene, CSBA and ISDOC, anything to report?
Yeah, I do. Okay, got all this stuff. First of all, on CSDA, actually, what has happened is I've got some more meetings to go to now. They've appointed me for membership committee. They've appointed me for professional development and an alliance committee. And CSDA has said that also the finance, which I've been on, so that's that one too. So that takes care of that part. And CSDA is just almost through with all the appointments they're doing. So thank goodness. And that happens when you don't go to something. And then I went to ISDOC and on a Zoom on January 4th, and then went to, on January 11th, went to Costa Mesa Sanitary District for their study session. And on the 7th of January, I went to the membership committee. And that was a Zoom, and that was at CSDA. And then on the 7th, also, after that, I went to the professional services to pay, and that was a Zoom. And then January 24th was Costa Mesa's study session. And I went there in person. And then on January 28th, I went to the finance committee up in CSDA for a Zoom. That was it.
SDRMA, we had a board meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago, lost track of time. Financial report, it must be the time of the year for financial guys, because we had a rather lengthy, complicated financial report. You do so much better than those people. I mean, the other thing I wanted to bring up, the other part of SDRMA's meeting was about a 3-hour closed session on our performance evaluation for our CEO. Worked out just fine. But the other thing I want to report, remember at the last meeting, I asked you about the claim we had and why they didn't give us the replacement cost value on that claim. I guess I was wrong. No, I don't guess. I was wrong. Apparently, through some antiquated system, SDRMA pays depreciated value. And I don't, no, insurance doesn't work that way anymore. I mean, if we did that to all those poor folks up in the fire areas, we'd be in deep, we'd be in deep cherry poop. Pick up a phrase from our engineer. So I'm gonna be working with our board and our staff up there. We need to update that to get it to 21st century stuff and not 1700 stuff. So I just wanted to bring that up. The other couple of other meetings to mention for all of you staff, mostly to the board, I'm the Orange County Council of Governments representative for ISDOC. The annual conference for OCOG is March 27th. From 9 to 1:30 at the Nixon Library. All elected officials in the county are invited to attend at no charge. It's a nice lunch they include, plus you get to go to the Nixon Library and you can do whatever. They just announced the keynote speaker, and he's a guy that's a former city councilman in San Diego, and he's going to be talking about disaster preparedness and outcomes from disaster. If you remember, I don't know how many years, 8 or 10 years ago, there were major fires in San Diego County, which is mostly the city of San Diego's jurisdiction. So he's a little bit of an expert on it. If you want to spend a very enjoyable morning, it's one of those meetings where I think you walk away getting a sense of getting something out of it. March 27th at the Nixon Library, 9 o'clock. Nolani, if you could look up OCOG, it'll give you the ways to register people who want to go. And then last week, several of us attended the grand reopening of Orange Coast College Recycling. It's about time. I mean, I'm sure we all have had comments from members of the community about how much it was missed. And I think it's gonna get back to its glory days. We had a nice ceremony, recognized some folks that needed to be recognized, and didn't recognize some people that should have been recognized. Scott and I talked a little bit, Mike Carey, who really carried that thing, they didn't even point out that Mike was there, and that was kind of disappointing. So, but other than that, it's good to have them open and finally get my backyard cleaned up with all the cans.
Yeah, I might add too to that as we were going through this ribbon cutting, people were pulling up, trying to put their cans, do all their work with what they had. We said, we're not open yet.
And you guys left early, but the pizza arrived after you left. You missed the pizza.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, any other meetings? Anybody?
Yeah,
Submitted mine in writing today.
I went to the Active Transportation Committee meeting on the 5th. And they did a traffic safety presentation. Apparently we have some issues some issues with DUIs. And yeah, they're working on bringing those numbers down, the number of DUIs.
Okay. Anything else? Any other meetings? All right. Oral communications, director's comments, staff, anything from anybody? Thank you. Good job. Appreciate your diligent work. Board, any other comments?
Happy belated New Year.
It is belated. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, when is that?
17th, March 17th. Our
It's the same time every year, March 17th. Same day every year.
Oh, we're green.
They were great. All right, with that, we are adjourned to the study session of March 11th, I think. Thank you all very much.